The Woovebox UI is genius. Freebeat. Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome to Freebeat. Today's patron shoutout goes to Andrew McKenzie. Thank you so very much for the support. Real quick, while I have done work for the Woovebox creator in the past, this video is not sponsored in any way. Funding for this channel primarily comes from ad revenue and from my Patreon page, where you can get access to awesome perks like the Freebeat Discord server for as little as just $1 a month. Let's get started. This is the Woovebox. It's a little 16-track groovebox with synthesis and sampling. It can be had for $250, and it has an insanely long feature list, not just for its price, but also for its size. When the Woovebox was first announced, one of the initial things I noticed was that just about everyone was assuming that the UI would be incredibly tedious to use, and even though I'd already had a Woovebox for some time by then and I knew that it was not tedious, I couldn't really blame the doubters. I mean, looking at a box this small with a feature list this long instantly makes one think of endless scrolling through super deep menus, mindlessly searching for the parameter that you're after. However, the Woovebox gets around all of this with one of the most genius UIs I've ever seen in a device. Also, at this point, I'd like to point out that, much like the Dirty Wave M8, the Woovebox is just a one-person project. It's something that I don't see talked about often enough, and I even see folks saying things like the Woovebox team. Nope, just one guy. Okay, back to the UI and what makes it so fantastic. So I mentioned that the Woovebox has 16 tracks. To switch between them, simply hold down the main knob, which is also a button, and press buttons 1 through 16, long pressing 14, 15, and 16 if you want to get to those tracks. These tracks can be whatever you want, but to help you stay organized, the first 8 tracks are labeled with some very common track types. Let's switch to track 5, which by default is the kick track. Now that we're in a track, we can turn the knob to scroll through the different pages of a track. Right now, we're in the sequencer page where we can live play our sound. Let's scroll to the next page, which happens to be the pattern page. This is where the Woovebox starts to set itself apart. So on most devices, you'd have to click in the knob to actually enter the page, and then you'd continue to scroll through different features and parameters to get to the one you want, click the knob in again to select that, then use the knob again to set the value, and then hit some sort of exit or back button a few times to get back out to the page screen. That's the standard on most gear out there, and on bigger devices with larger screens and more knobs, it works just fine. However, the Woovebox is tiny, with a tiny screen. So, how do we navigate those parameters? With the buttons. On a page, every parameter is simply represented by a lit up button. Hold down a button for a brief description of its parameter, then if you want to adjust the parameter, turn the knob. For instance, holding down button 2 brings up pattern length. And then I can use the knob to adjust the pattern length. It's really that easy. This is why the Woovebox UI is genius. It replaces the act of scrolling through tons of parameters by assigning them to physical hardware buttons. Again, anything that's lit up is a parameter that can be adjusted. This has a couple of extra benefits as well. First of all, with a little bit of repetition and memorization, it's very easy to find the parameter that you want quickly. Let's say that I want to adjust the filter cutoff of the kick track. Well, I simply go to the filter page, and then by memory, I know that button 2 is the cutoff. Just like that, there we go. It also means that with a little common sense, you can find a parameter that you might not have memorized the location of. For instance, let's say I want to change the compression threshold for my kick. Scrolling through the different track pages here, I can probably guess that compression for the threshold, there we go, will be under DYNA. That's short for dynamics. This is the dynamics page. From here, I can quickly search through all the different parameters simply by long pressing on the buttons until I get to something that says compression threshold. There we go. COMPTHRS, compression threshold, and now I can adjust it. Also, the act of searching for parameters with physical buttons is much more engaging than just scrolling through non-stop menus. And finally, the last benefit is that once you start to memorize one track, you're actually memorizing them all. All of the tracks are identical, with a few tiny exceptions for the chord track just because of its polyphonic nature. So really, once you've learned one track, you've learned them all, which is just absolutely genius. Remember, it's super easy to switch between tracks too. Hold down value, click the track you want. So here's the ARP track, now we're on the dynamics page of the ARP track. Compression threshold for the ARP track, right there. Snare, same thing, right there. Look at that. Chord track, same thing right there. Bass, yep, and back to the kick. Now yes, scrolling through the pages themselves can be a bit tiresome, or at least it would be a bit tiresome if it weren't for this awesome shortcut. From any page, you can simply click in the value knob to instantly jump back to the sequencer page, which is page 1. If you click the value knob in again, it'll actually go back to the page that you were previously on. It remembers, which is really, really cool. There's 11 pages in total, and with a little bit of practice using this shortcut, you can fly between them so fast. So I really do hope that this video was able to demonstrate just how genius the Woovebox UI really is. To be able to fit so many features into a device this small while maintaining a very quick workflow, it just kind of blows my mind, and I think it really speaks to the passion that the creator has put into this awesome little groovebox. Of course, all the firmware updates that have come out since then. I don't even have the latest one on here. It just came out, I think, yesterday as of the filming of this video. All the firmware updates he's been putting out also speak to his passion. This thing is incredible. And I do know that some of you out there will not be convinced, and there's, nothing that can convince you because you're just going to hate it, and that's fine, of course. However, if you do leave a comment down below, then I can argue with you in the comment section, and that is great for my engagement and really helps this video get seen by more people, which is awesome. Speaking of this video, I do hope you found it informative or at least entertaining. If you did, be sure to leave a like on it. If not, you can always leave a dislike. That's okay too. Like I said earlier, helps the engagement, helps the algorithm. Either way though, be sure you do hit that subscribe button, ring that notification bell. Thank you all so very much for being here. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye. Waiting for the mail lady outside to finish putting all the mail in the boxes because she's so freaking loud. And she plays crappy music on her phone while she does it.